Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Truth or Demons. I'm your host, Stevie, and I'm back with another amazing interview for you guys. I got to speak with a man named Frank Chiafari. Frank is going to tell us all about his connections with the Warrens and his experiences with the paranormal. But I have to address something first before I play the interview for you. I am not a super tech-savvy person, hence why Brandon does most of my editing. Shout out to Brandon. So, because of that, I am still learning how to record interviews without interference from other things coming in on my phone. Around the middle of the interview, there is some beeping that we jokingly blamed on something paranormal, but it turns out I just didn't silence my incoming calls properly and a call interrupted us. So, I am so sorry for the random beeping, and next time I know how to fully turn off any and all interruptions. Anyways, without further delay, let's hear from Frank. Alrighty, I am ready to start whenever you are.
Anytime.
All
I'm
right.
just going to do it whatever we let it flow.
Sounds good to me. I have a list of questions, but I'll also probably come up with some other things as we go.
Yeah. That's good.
Awesome. Then let's start. And firstly, if you would, please tell the listeners who you are and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Where do we start here? My name's Frank Chiafari. I live in Connecticut right now in New England, and I love it up here because of the country. I'm a huge nature lover. And so I grew up in Brooklyn and Queens. I was born in New York, and I always felt, hey, there must have been some kind of mistake here. I love the country. How am I living in the city here? But there's always a reason for everything. You know, I look back and I finally made peace. I actually look fondly back on the way I grew up. But because now I live here, I know the contrast. I love it up in the country. So, about the paranormal thing, to get into that, because it goes back to when I was a kid, I was watching a television show once with Hans Holzer. I don't know if he was like a legendary ghost guy at the time in the 60s.
Yeah, I've heard of him. I have yet to do my research on him, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, his daughter did a show, I think 2 years ago, with a guy, Dave, who actually let me use my song on his podcast. They called it the Holzer Files. It was on the Travel Channel.
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, I think it's off now. It did one season, but I never had an experience with ghosts or spirits. Like, people will ask, what made you get into this? Oh, I saw a ghost when I never had any of that. But I, for some reason, extremely drawn to that stuff, even when I was like 7 and 8. And I saw that television show in the 60s. I was a little kid. And I saw it and I go, something resonated with me. I don't know why, but I went, wow, I'm very fascinated, even at a young age. And in those days, there was no YouTube and you could go look things up. There were no books about it. You really had to go research and try to find the odd book about ghosts or spirits. There was none of that, no TV shows about it. So I just felt very drawn to it. And I just thought, oh, there's something about this. It's part of me here. I don't know why. And I always kept interested in it. I kept no matter if I'm on vacation, wherever, I always try to research haunted locations and just visit them. Just to say, hey, man, this is cool, right? That's the coolest thing.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that and understand that. I've had some very minor experiences. I've never seen an apparition or a ghost. I've just had some experiences I couldn't explain, but I fully understand and can relate to that, just feeling like you're drawn to it and you just have to be a part of it.
Right? I don't question it anymore. I go, hey, that's part of my, like if you love music or art or whatever you
Exactly.
do, you're drawn, that's part of you.
Yeah, I love that. So my next question was, I think you've already answered it. It was, how did you get introduced into the world of paranormal? So this show is what sparked your interest and started it, right?
Yes, it really did. And I just knew on some level that I was fascinated, but more there's something resonant. They said, what is it about ghosts and spirit? I started thinking about the cool part, obviously. Oh, ghosts and spirits. But then I was thinking, well, what is that? Like, what goes on after we pass? Like, is there something? Are ghosts an indication and evidence that there really is, we do survive the grave, and there is something out there which we all want. We all would love that, right? I mean, to know that we don't end when we die, there's something.
Yeah, for sure.
right? I mean, that to me, ghosts are evidence of that. If you really do find evidence, not just from TV shows, but in your own life, if you just know on some level that there's something out there. I don't know. I can't explain what it is, what goes on, but I just feel there is something out there.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. 100%.
Yeah.
So, you say you don't know, like none of us basically know, but do you believe in anything? Like, specifically, do you believe in hauntings or ghosts having the ability to haunt us, or even something other than ghosts?
Yeah, that's a good question because I contemplate that question all the time. I don't want to be the typical, I don't want to knock anybody, but people on YouTube or these TV shows where everything is paranormal.
Yes.
Everybody makes fun of the shows. A rock falls and it's like, oh, it's a ghost, and they make a whole story about it. It's
yeah.
Right? I mean, it gets a little laughable sometimes. Like,
Agreed.
come on, man.
Yes.
It's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel there is something. With some experiences I've had, I guess, that I say, oh, that was kind of weird. It kind of defies logic. And I guess I don't jump to the paranormal thing right away. I have a tendency to push it out maybe if something does happen. But after a while, over the years of being open, I always say you should be open to it. Don't believe everything, but don't be skeptical either.
Yes.
Be open to it.
Yes.
Right? Open.
I believe the same thing. It's like, it's not, we don't know, so it's not for us to say one way or the other. So just let it happen and let it explain itself to you if it's going to. Otherwise, you won't ever get that explanation. Like, you will never be, if you're not open to it, you won't get anything from it.
Exactly the best philosophy you could have in anything in life. And I used to tell, well, I'm sure we'll get into it, how I knew Ed and Lorraine, but when we used to go on investigations, they would take me, and I was like a kid in a candy shop. Wow, this is like now my dream is coming true here, actually doing this. And a lot of the investigators, I hate to say, I'm not going to say names or anything, but anything that happened, they would say, oh, paranormal, ghost. Did you just see that? And I used to sit there going, no, man. I mean, come on. Let's really make this evidence like very plausible and believable.
Do the rules. Debunk first. Make sure nothing else could cause this.
Right. That's what you should. That's how you should go in. And any investigation as a detective in the police department, or you have to go in with an open mind, not having a preconceived outcome in your head.
Exactly.
You have to be fair.
Yeah, and most of the time, the outcome is not anything you would have imagined.
Yeah, I'm sure you. How long have you been? You've been interested all your life too. You said, right? Like doing the same thing.
As long as I can remember, I would say that my real interest took root when I was about 8, when I started being allowed to watch scary movies that I probably shouldn't have watched.
Yeah, but it piqued your interest, right?
Mm-hmm. The first one for me was the movie The Entity. And
yes.
That one left quite an impression on me. I was hooked after that. I needed to know everything. I began checking out every possible book because, like you said, like the information wasn't that readily available. And this was in the 90s when I first took interest. And so it started to get more traction, like more TV shows. I started seeing Lorraine on TV. I heard my mom's opinions about Lorraine, which further ignited my need to know things. So, yeah.
That's interesting because I remember that movie now, The Entity. I saw it too, and I thought it was a little ahead of its time. That movie.
Good. A lot of people said that the effects were fantastic.
Right? I mean, it showed you. I didn't even when I read things, but when I was watching that, I'm like, what's going on here? Like it kept it. It didn't really. It left you a little open. It was good. I like how they.
Yeah.
Right? It was good. Open-ended. It was.
Yeah, and they didn't just assume answers. I really appreciated that. They didn't get them, so they told you. That's all we got.
Right. And it was based on a true story, was it? I don't remember.
Yes. The real person it was based on was Doris Byther, I believe. I think that's how you say it. Good. Yeah, that's one of my big ones. I'd really love to do an episode on it, and I actually probably will because I can tie it in a little bit to some other cases.
Yeah, that's good. That was a good first movie for you, though.
Yes. Oh, yeah. It hooked me for sure. Okay,
Oh,
so
yeah.
my next question is also feel free to decline answering any questions if you don't feel comfortable or if you don't want to share something in particular. That is totally fine. But my next question is, are you a religious based believer?
Um, I'm not. I don't consider myself religious. Again, I always so when I'm with people, I have a lot of religious friends. I don't condemn anybody or go with negative thing about religion. I'm just not me. I don't really. I was born a Catholic. I have nothing against the Catholic religion or Christianity. To each his own. I don't really resonate with it. For me personally,
Yes, I agree
I
completely.
right. I find myself just saying we're all human, we're all souls, and being kind is my religion. I think the Dalai
Same.
Lama said that
Yes.
actually, right?
Yes, that is
That's
my
my religion,
favorite thing. Just be kind. That's all you have to do. It's so simple and it goes so far.
right? I just be kind to, as I'm getting older, I go over the day. Did I gossip today? Do I did anything? We're all human, we
Yeah,
mess up,
yeah.
but I'm very aware of it now as I'm
Yes.
getting older. I really
Yes.
don't want to hurt anybody, or I just want to live in peace and do my things and spread a little kindness out there and love. Not to sound a
Yes.
cliche, but that's really what it's about.
I couldn't agree more. I try and check my thoughts daily, like, because you have your own personal thoughts that you know no one else can hear, and you think things. And sometimes I try to check my thoughts just to make sure that my actions are actually reflecting my thoughts instead of just making sure I'm putting on the front instead of actually being it.
Right. That's if everybody did that, this would be a really cool world to live in, right? If
I
everybody thought that.
agree. Yes. And I like to surround myself with people like that because it makes your life just so much better.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Really, I believe me. I've been on the other side of that too, where it's like,
Yes.
no, man, it just drains the hell out of you.
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. I've had those experiences as well.
So I don't know if you want to get into obviously the show. We'll get into like paranormal things if you want. I don't.
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want to
we're
bore
we're
your
headed
listeners
that
quite.
way. So my first question, to kick off our paranormal discussion, my first question is, what's been your most prominent experience involving the paranormal?
All right, extremely good question because this is how I met Ed and Lorraine.
Fantastic.
So I believe I'm a person that does believe in synchronicities. I do believe that the universe gives us signs for things. If you're open to it and you start to see the same thing happening here and there or something weird, you go, wow, that's kind of, so you take note of that stuff. So I'm in a bookstore about 1991. And I remember the day because that's when I met Ed and Ray. But I'm in a bookstore up in Connecticut where I live. And I'm drawn to this aisle because I saw now they have a few ghost books. Now they have an actual section of paranormal, supernatural. I don't think they said paranormal in it. It was supernatural.
Yeah.
So I'm in there and I see a book and it's called Ghost Hunters by Ed and Lorraine Warren. And I said, I was just drawn to, I didn't even, you know what? Honestly, I didn't even know who they were. I forgot who they were. Like I had a vague memory and I looked at it and I go, Ed and Lorraine Warren, Ghost Hunters. Couple that does, so let me buy this book. So I buy it. I'm reading. I read it in one night. It's a paperback. A week later, someone calls me and says, hey, Frank, did you ever hear of Ed and Lorraine Warren? I go, yeah. They go, they're going to do a lecture here in the next town. And I go, what the heck? I just bought the book and they're going to be here now. So I said, let's go. And we went there. It was a 6-hour lecture.
Wow.
I was so fascinated. It was like, I was scared when I left the place. I said, I'm sure I'm going to run into a ghost when I leave here. That's how frightened. Ed was a fantastic speaker. I mean, they were
Yeah,
showing
he
slides.
does a great job.
Extremely captivating. So I called them up the next day because I had their number because they actually called me to confirm that I was coming. So I called back and I said I got Lorraine and I go, look, it was a little ridiculous. I said, they must get this all the time. I said, I have a picture of a ghost I took in Virginia, in Williamsburg. To me, it looked through a window. I see a face and everything. I said, this is pretty cool. Could I show you? And Ed got on and goes, come to the house now. And I'm like, come to your house? I go, he lived about like a half hour from me.
That's
in
amazing.
Connecticut. So I said, okay. And I went there, and he's looking at it, and like, to be honest, he was like, okay, because he must have seen a billion pictures before. He kind of was like, all right, no big deal. But he says, hey, listen, we're going on a case right now. You want to come with us? And I'm
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh, God. Yes. I go, what? Tell me about it. So I'm in the car. He was driving, and it was up in northern Connecticut. I got to tell you, it changed my life. It was the first and only time that I've seen, like, incredible phenomenon. Like, I actually witnessed it.
Wow.
I can't tell you what was behind it. All I could just tell you what I saw and what I heard. And it was life-changing.
Wow.
We're in the kitchen, and it was supposedly a poltergeist, a case Ed said, where this little girl was being affected. And we're sitting in the kitchen, and Ed is talking to this thing, and he's saying, do you want us in this house? Bang, once for yes, twice for no. And as he's asking these questions, there's these loud bangs coming in the room. And
Wow.
I'm looking around going, this has got to be a joke here, set up. And it's all over the room, loud, like amplified. And we're going, oh, man, this stuff is real. Whatever it is, something's going on here. Things are moving. I see blinds moving. Things are moving across the shelf, even if it's 3 inches every time he talks. And I'm going, this is crazy. Like, I'm actually seeing this here.
Yeah.
And he said to me before, you watch the shows, they go, oh, my battery was drained. Well, that happened to me. I brought my camera, those big video cameras in those days.
Yeah.
And he said, now charge your battery before you get here. This house drains the battery. I'm like, all right, whatever. And I get there, fully charged battery. The battery dies within 15 minutes.
Holy moly.
That I had to plug it in. I had a plug too, so I had to do that. And I go, whatever this is, I don't know. I can't explain it, but I saw this phenomenon. Whatever. It's demons, whatever. He called it a poltergeist case, but I definitely witnessed it. And it was life-changing for me because I've always believed it, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
And this was like incredible for me.
That is incredible. That's a phenomenal story. I love that story.
Yeah. I mean, and Johnny Zaffis, the ghost. He had the show with Ghost Collector.
Yeah.
He's Ed's nephew.
Yes.
And John went to that case too that I was just talking. So I met John. I was on a few cases with John. I'm actually good friends with John now.
Oh, that's
we
awesome.
reconnected recently, so he's a cool guy.
Oh, good. That's awesome. Yeah, I've heard great things about him.
Yeah, good, really, and very. He calls himself the Godfather of the paranormal. He really is. I gotta say, he knows. Awesome. He has so much knowledge.
That's awesome. I tried to reach out to him, but I don't. I only did it on Facebook. I found an email for him. I have yet to reach out to him and email him, but I'd love to interview him too. That would be really fun.
Well, I'll give him a call for you just to set it up. It's up to him, but I could.
Yeah,
I could
totally.
Call for you.
I would appreciate that so much. And if he says no, I completely understand.
He says no. I got to tell you, he's extremely busy. He's always doing lectures all over the state, all over the country.
Yeah, a couple of people I've talked to, it was a scheduling issue and couldn't get him to interview. So I did a few email interviews.
Yeah, I'll call for you, see what happens.
That sounds great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, so that was my first experience. I had a few other little things with them in the years to come, but I really learned more about it because I loved going on those cases. But then what happened, my relationship with Ed and Lorraine evolved where I got very close to them. Ed was like a father to me. And I didn't go in cases anymore. What happened was when they got the initial case, they would go on an initial interview. And that's what I did. I went with them. They would always call me, Frank, we got to go talk to this guy up in Vermont or whatever. Why don't you come with us? And that's how I adapted to it. I evolved to that level.
That's really awesome.
Which was cool.
What was your favorite memory of working on cases with them? Or a favorite case?
Well, that one, the first one I said there was, it had to be my favorite one because it was the most phenomenal.
Yeah.
But I loved going with them. I cherished these memories where it was Ed, Lorraine, and my wife would come too then. We got to be all friends. And we would go, Ed, we got a 6-hour ride up to Vermont. Come with us to interview this woman. And I got to be honest, 90% of it was like just bogus. It was
Yeah.
like you would just drive up there and people, oh, I'm having demons chase me. And you go, oh, no, we drove all the way up here for this. There's a lot of people want to get in the act or just have a little nuttiness in them. I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
They do.
So how often would Ed entertain the nuttiness, and how often would he be like, all right, this is too much nuttiness, we're going to go?
He would sit there, and he always have a ritual. It was funny. He had to give coffee and cookies. He had to have that when he was interviewing. I'm like, where's my coffee? He was a joke. And it was funny. And then he would give me the look when I could see it. I could just see it. It was like, oh, no. Ed had a tough side to him, believe me. Like, all right, we're out of here. And it was like, he would be polite, and we'd leave, and he'd be in the car going, could you imagine? And I go, he was used to it, though.
Yeah.
That happened a lot. It happened most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot
Once
of people.
in a while, you get one. Once in a while, you get a legit one where you can say, hey, you know what? Something sounds legit here. And he would send his crew in after at night to come and investigate.
Yeah. Yeah, in my reading, I've read most of their books, I'm pretty sure. Ed mentions food a lot, so that's funny you said that about the cookies. I can definitely picture that.
Oh, food. And then after a case, sometimes we would go at like 12 o'clock at night when we did. Sometimes we go overnight or just to 1 in the morning. He had a ritual. When you'd leave the house, you had to stop in a diner, and he'd order, I'm telling you, giant banana split.
That's incredible.
1 o'clock in the morning, eat this banana split.
That's awesome.
It was funny.
That is pretty funny. I mean, food, man, sometimes food really wraps up a good evening or a good experience.
Oh, no. It's funny because we would be home. For people who want to know a little about Ed and Lorraine, my wife and I would be home. We lived in a little condo in 1990s, and I had a daughter then born the same year I met them. And there would be a knock at the door, and it would be Ed and Lorraine. Hello, we came over to eat. And you'd have to feed them. It was funny.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, I knew them very well. Ed was the first person that believed in me with my music. He put my song on he had a show, The Seekers of the Supernatural, and he opened the show and used the end credits with my song. And I, to this day, am like eternally grateful for that, like that he did that for me.
That is really cool. Yeah, I've watched most of those as well on YouTube. They're on Tony's channel, and yeah, they've been really a lot of help in my research and stuff. Yeah.
No, Ed was extremely knowledgeable. I mean, really extremely. I cherished the times I would be in the car with him. Sometimes he'd pick me up and we'd just drive, and I would ask him questions. I figured, who else to ask? Like he would open and tell me things, and I learned a lot in those days.
Yeah.
About his cases or what's going. Just Ed, what happens with this? What does this mean here? And he would tell me.
Yeah.
It was just fascinating to me.
That is really cool that you got to experience that sort of mentorship with him.
Yeah, I feel fortunate to this day.
I bet. That's so awesome. So on that note, do you have a least favorite experience with investigating with them or just with them in general?
At least, let me think. Nothing to do, against them, but maybe a particular somewhere we went where I can't really say, there were ones that were boring, really boring. He put me in a room sometimes and go sit in that room with your tape recorder, and I'd be up literally in the dark sometimes 3 hours. That wasn't fun.
Yeah.
I got to say, there was a few times I was scared, and I didn't see, but I was scared. I'm not going to lie. I go, oh, no. He goes, this is a really haunted spot, Frank. I want you to, I go, oh, great. I don't want to see anything in here.
Yeah.
This guy was nervous. But I don't know about negatives. Nothing really. I can't really think of anything that I didn't like, really per se didn't like.
Okay. Alrighty then. Let's see. Let me see which. You've answered some of my questions here just through conversation, so I gotta figure out where to go next. Um, so you've shared a lot about like working with them and stuff over the years since you did get to experience a lot with them. The major cases that we know today in the Conjuring franchise, did you get to experience anything with any of those cases? Like for instance, the farm in for the first Conjuring movie, the Perrin family farm, or the did you get to speak with them about Infield because they went to Infield, or did you happen to get to go ever with them?
Okay, so I never experienced any of those major cases. A lot of that was before I met them, those major ones, the ones, the books. But I did go to England with them and Scotland. And we're in the car, and he said, "We got a 2-hour ride today." I go, "Where are we going?" He goes, "We're going to the Enfield house." So I thought that's an iconic haunting.
Yeah.
So we went there, and I met the people. I didn't see her have anything happen, but I was in the house, and in a little house, like the row houses in England.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is cool, man. I'm meeting the people here that that all this stuff supposedly happened. Like I said, I have no knowledge of it, but it was cool to be in the famous house. They made the Conjuring movie, the second one, I think.
For sure. When you were there, was activity still going on, or had it died down by that point?
They said it died down. I was talking to the guy. He goes, "No, we don't really have anything anymore." And a nice guy, very English, very gentlemanlike, and and it was nothing there. But then I met the other case that I think I sent you the picture of the werewolf guy, Bill Ramsey.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a pub, and Ed said, "Oh, Bill's coming tonight with his wife." I go, "Oh, okay." As I'm sitting there, I'm going, "Hey, please, God, don't let this guy get crazy here now on me." And he was a gentleman. He was really a gentleman. And but I was always a little leery looking at him like, "Hey, man, you never know here."
Well, I've seen his picture, and I have to say, I'd be a little leery too. He's an interesting looking man. He looks a little terrifying.
Yeah. I mean, the picture, and you look at him, you go, something's going on. But he was, again, a real gentleman. I have to say, very calm and humble. But because I was thinking to get into, some people ask me a lot. I get it a lot. Well, I don't get it much anymore. But are they legit or this thing? And I go, look, I could tell you from sitting with Ed and Lorraine, they really have a passion for this stuff. Do I believe things were embellished? Yeah, of course I do. I mean, how could you not? It's like any movie you see based on a true story. That means this is embellished.
Yes.
Anything. Do I believe? And if someone would pin me and say, "Well, what about the werewolf case?" I got to be honest, that was my least favorite thing of all their books for me personally.
Okay.
I just was like, I don't know about this. I'm not trying to be negative or bad, but I just felt like maybe this guy had like kind of a mental thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I wasn't there, like Eric in the interview said. I wasn't there. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a very plausible notion, though, because a lot of times, especially if someone's calling for a need of an exorcism, they have to do a mental evaluation first. So a lot of times, the idea of a haunting or possession, or in this case a werewolf, it's just a mental illness they can't pinpoint, so it's just easier to say it's paranormal.
I think that's the danger of the paranormal, and that's where skeptics, they have a good point. They say, you see another demon case, and it makes it foolish. Then it makes a mockery of the paranormal, but they have a point, the skeptics, with that. Well, so it's like, I don't know. It's just, I wish people would focus on each case and go, "Hey, how do we really want to do this here?
I agree.
Should we really get into this?" Or
I believe, like for me, I 110% believe in the paranormal and the possibility of all of this stuff. But firstly, I'm a scientist and a skeptic. I have to ask the questions that can eliminate any other possibility, because if I'm not doing that and I'm just assuming, I'm not making an educated guess, and I'm not being professional about it, and I'm perpetuating something I don't really know. So that's why that's like why I started the podcast, because I love all this stuff, and if I can get more answers and get less questions, I would feel so much better about believing in certain things.
Well, what you just said is that's the most logical piece of advice. If they had investigators and all these TV shows and all these YouTube kids and everything, if they could write that, what you just said, in a paragraph and have that on their wall, it would save a lot of embarrassment for people, because these kids and these other, they present it as the gospel. Yeah, I saw this or this, and it's wrong. It's wrong.
Yep.
To do that.
I agree. I believe that people are getting carried away with being the first to share something that they caught, like especially with the social media and the TikTok especially. I have seen many TikTok videos that just make me want to pull my hair out, because I'll have friends or family send them to me because they know I'm into it, and they'll be like, did you see this? And I open it and it is so clearly faked, and I feel bad telling my friend or family member, hey, this is not real, but thanks for sharing with me. But like, yeah, I can't believe all that stuff at face value. I have to know for a fact, with no deniability, that it's real before I'll perpetuate it as real.
Oh yeah, again, what you said, that's it. That's how people, when you're doing an investigation, that's how you have to go into the house, with that attitude. You have to prove to me this is real. I don't want to just hear about what you're going to tell me about. Last night this happened. I got to have good evidence.
Yep.
Because I think it's rare that it really is a haunting. For me,
yes.
My feeling about it. And today you look at these TV shows, there's a million of them, and every house is a demon. There's always a demon haunting.
That's what led to the title of my podcast, because I was like, well, every time you come across these shows or these stories, they're like, it's an inhuman spirit, aka a demon. And I'm like, how did you decide that? What made you so sure? And like, that's kind of rude. What if it is a ghost and they're really struggling with something, and you just labeled them as a demon and you want to exorcise them out of the building?
Again, I don't even know. I've been studying this stuff and getting it. I don't even know if sometimes I believe in all that, like demons and stuff. I don't know. I think
agree.
Sometimes it's an earthly spirit. I do believe that sometimes when we pass, we hang out a while for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could happen. I think that's more common. And so something might move and you go, oh, it's a demon in the house because I'm scared.
Yep, exactly. The fear drives people to go straight to that word.
Yes. And it's, maybe it's just if it's such it's possibility, and I do believe that there is such a thing as a ghost, a human spirit that he's trying to communicate, almost like, look, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
Or this is my house before you came, and I'm a little annoyed sometimes that I see these people. Whatever that happens, but that to me is more plausible than some kind of evil realm somewhere where these things hanging out and they're coming to get us.
Yes.
I don't know about that. That's my personal feeling.
I can agree with that. I get really hung up on sometimes in my research. I've discovered not only with Ed and Lorraine's cases, but some other cases I've come across, that they try to stretch back in time to explain, like, because they'll be like, oh, it's a demon, but I haven't done anything to draw in a demon. Why would it come after me? And then the response from the investigator will be, well, have you done this in your past? Have you done this? And usually it's, did you play with a Ouija board? In Arnie Cheyenne Johnson's case, Debbie said she did a paper or something in school on witches, and that was the reason, along with the Ouija board. And I'm just like, that is a little far-fetched to explain something you really don't know what it is.
I agree 100% with that. It's like all these cases that are famous, and they go, what did you do? How did you attract it? Because I know Ed used to tell me there's the law of attraction,
mm-hmm.
or did something happen? Did you do something years ago, or whatever? And it's like, come on. I mean, writing a paper, or even the Annabelle case with the supposed, I don't know if they were nurses, I forgot. I used to know.
Yeah, nurses. Yeah.
Right, was it that, or they were fooling around, doing something, treating the doll like it was real, and then the doll became alive? And I'm going, I don't know, man. Every little kid in America is treating their dolls like they're real.
Yeah, and when I did the Annabelle case, I have a lot of skepticism about Annabelle. But when I researched it and I was looking into, I pulled an Ed. I looked back into Ed's and Lorraine's history to see what would have caused them to, if this story isn't real, to come up with it. And I found that they were both avid fans of the show Twilight Zone. And there is an episode in Twilight Zone where there is a little girl who is gifted a doll on her birthday. And this doll comes to life and terrorizes her stepfather. And to top that all off, the mother's character name in the show is Annabelle.
All right, now that's funny because I know that episode.
Yeah?
And the doll was called Tiny Tina.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I remember it was my daughter loves it. My daughter Jillian's very into this, so we used to watch that. And you're right, and I do remember the Annabelle reference to that.
So that right there gives me so much pause on the Annabelle story, and then the fact that the nurses never came forward. They never gave interviews. They never ever became public, and every other case, at some point, they came out.
Yeah, I listen again. I'm saying this from a place of love. I love Ed and Lorraine. I do. They were so kind to me. They changed my life in many ways. I couldn't ask for more. Like I said, they would pick us up, take us to restaurants. I love them, but I do question some of the things, and I understand it. Like, as far as, okay, we got to have this. It's Ed in his day. There were no TV shows on and everything, and I think Ed felt like, well, let's do this, whatever. Let's make a case, so I don't know, but a lot of it I do question. I do. I have to say that.
That's
coming
fair.
From a good, kind place.
That's fair. And it from a neutral perspective for me, without feelings involved, I see the Warrens as they had a severe, intense interest. And
Yes.
it just all fell into place as it did. And as they're going along, they're like, okay, let's try this. Okay, let's try this. Well, this might work. This might further our purpose, our mission. So I can definitely understand how embellishments happened, how fibs happened, how things were changed over time to be more relevant. I can definitely see that.
Yes. No, I think what you said is pretty accurate. Again, they weren't doing it to be frauds or when you're so involved in this stuff, and I know they did, and believe me, I know they were passionate and believed in everything, because I know there's people out there that are badmouth, and you go on YouTube, you'll see it.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, well, I was there with them. I know how passionate they were and believed in this stuff. So, like you said, though, if I see something in the house, how do I make this better for people? Because it's kind of boring. So let me spark it up. Let me say this case, maybe someone came to them and said, oh, Ed, I had a doll and it moved. Let's make a case out of it. I get it. I don't know that, but you're probably accurate with that.
It's a great way to get your mission seen, even if you have a genuine, what's the word I want? A genuine need to help people, and you definitely want to help them. Sometimes, like with the Hodgson case, the girls claim they wanted help so badly that they faked a little bit of it to get the attention. So I can see it. I can definitely see it.
And I will say this, no fairness to them. I've been in houses with them. They went to like millionaires' homes that they said they saw this thing at night, this green man. I still remember it. And the lady was like rich. And she said to Ed, here's money. And Ed said, I don't take money. Mm-hmm. So I looked at that and I went, wow, she's not doing. He goes, no, I don't charge for this.
Yeah.
So because in case people were saying in the audience thinking, oh, he didn't take a penny. Mm-hmm. How he made his money is what you said, the books.
Yep, and lectures.
And lectures. That really is how they made their money. Yeah. And again, I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, that is one thing I found to be consistent. They really did stand by that they did not charge for their services. So that is something I appreciate, admire, and find very intriguing about them.
No, they really, and I could tell you, I said it before, very passionate and believed everything, what they were doing. But again, like I said, and I know it, and I talked to other people, and they said, yeah, we know he embellished, because I talked to other paranormal writers too in books, and they said, yeah, we have to spark it up a little, because if I told you the story the way it is, it would be boring.
Yeah.
Just the way it is in movies. Yeah. Everybody does it.
And people like to be shocked. People like to have that fear ignited in them, and sometimes it needs the embellishments to ignite the fear, and then the whole baseline of it is still scary.
Yes, that's right. It is. So, I mean, that's the part, because a lot of people will ask me that, till today, but years ago when I was with them. Is it real? Is it this? Are they charlatans? And you'll see things about that to this day about them. And I laugh because I go, I know a lot of stuff was embellished and everything, but in those days it was tough because there wasn't this interest like there is today.
Yeah.
You come on a TV show today and you're an expert and everybody's doing this and that, and like it was tough when he was paving the way for all these guys.
Yes.
So I think he had to embellish a little.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that and see that. Like nowadays, since there's so many of them and people can pull from this, that, and the other sources, but I'm seeing that people are still following, like, Ed made a position in this world of an investigator who leads a team who hunts ghosts. And then TV came and TV made it a thing. And now all these fans and enthusiasts turn to these leaders on these TV shows. And it just makes me, it just makes me want to smack some people because it's like you only watched this show. You only took what this person said and now it's fact to you and you're not open to anything else.
No. And then the thing makes me laugh is I cringe at it when all of a sudden everybody's a demonologist and an expert now.
Yes.
In ghosts. I go, what was your training? Well, I watched Zach on Ghost Adventures for 2 years. I know now, actually. I go, come on. You know. You got to get out there yourself. My advice would be to anybody, if you want to do it, get out there, read a little, watch the shows. I don't care. Read as much as you could.
Yes.
Find out and then go out to like haunted locations go take some pictures, whatever. Just feel it. Just keep going. And then you'll get in tune to that. That's how that really is.
I agree completely. I have done several amateur investigations growing up with my mom because it was like a very big hobby of ours. And we would go to places that were on public property that you could explore. We'd go at night. We'd get a little scare. And then we started branching out to booking actual investigations with other people or just us and like paying to be in the building or whatever for the night.
Yeah.
And like the more you do it, the more you just innately learn how to deal with it, and you don't need all these TV show leaders in your ear and in your mind telling you this is that and this is this. So it's so much better to just go do it yourself. And you don't need a lot of money. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I can't afford the equipment because, some of it can get really expensive. You don't need that. You just need yourself and your like desire to have an experience.
That really is, and I'm a firm believer, like the spiritual. Not to bring into the spiritual stuff, but there's this thing in there about the more what you focus on grows, and if you really do that, like you keep doing that, eventually you'll start to get so in tune to it that you will start experiencing phenomena.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You become part of it. You got to do it though.
Yeah, it's like a lot of psychic mediums say this, a lot of researchers say this. You just have to be open to it. If you're not open to it, you won't experience it. And
if you go in there with, I don't believe in any of this stuff, and you're not probably going to see anything, but I don't even know if but it's just, you might get a good picture, you might get a voice on a recording. And you got to be patient.
Yeah, and the more you do it, the more likely you are to get something. You can't just go on one investigation and then be bummed because you didn't catch anything.
Right. Go to what the fun thing is my wife and I like to do? Go to, like, if we're in an area and there's a haunted hotel, let's spend the night in the highways. Where's the haunted room? Yes. And it's just fun.
My mom and I do that.
It's just fun, right?
Yes. Yeah, I have a friend who wanted to go to Salem, and she was trying to be helpful, and she's like, I can get discounts on these certain hotels through, like, my work or my mom's work or whatever. And I'm like, that's cool and all, but I'm not going if I'm not staying in a haunted, like, location. It can be a hotel, but it has to be haunted.
Salem's a really good place. That's a really good spot.
I love Salem. I only got to go for a day. I was in a 20-hour layover in Boston, and I was like, I'm going to rent a car, and I'm going to drive to Salem and spend the day there. And it was amazing. I cannot wait to go back and, like, spend at least a week and explore and experience everything they have to offer.
Yeah, we used to go. I haven't gone in a while. We used to go for like 2 or 3 days at a time.
That's
my kids,
awesome.
They grew. I loved it. I mean, just the history. Even if you don't like the paranormal, the history is like it's so intriguing how these poor women, I mean, they thought that, and they show you how they were all innocent, really.
Yep,
I mean,
yep.
they
And they
killed them. I
came to
mean,
their
terrible.
senses after the fact. And they were like, we're not going to
Yeah.
do this anymore.
So, but there is a lot of, I have so many books about haunted locations in Salem, and you can go visit them, and
Yeah.
it's just fun.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
intriguing.
My advice to anybody who wants to like be into ghost hunting, do it amateur or professionally, like just start there. Start in your local areas, places you can get to
Right,
easy.
right.
Get your books on them, do your internet research. There is haunted history everywhere. You just have to look for it. And once you find it, most of the time it's easy to get to.
You know what? That's true. With the advent of all these haunted, the popularity of paranormal and hauntings, you could Google it, hauntings in my area or hauntings in whatever state you're in, a town, and you'll see it come up, all
Yep.
the spots.
Yep.
And you go, oh, let me visit it. Like you said, go
Yep.
over at the library. It says, go in there, take some pictures. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, and you can do it in broad daylight. People get ghost pictures in daylight all
Right.
the time, and they get EVPs and stuff. Like, you don't have to do it at night, especially if you're scared. I'm afraid of the dark by myself. If I have someone, I'm good, but I won't do it by myself.
No, that I advise people. I go, don't go, don't go to the cemetery at 2 in the morning in the dark. You probably could go in the daytime
Yeah, yeah.
and get the same phenomenon with especially EVPs. I've had people like honestly, I never got one, but I know that people. Some of my friends, they go, Frank, listen to it. It's really cool what they get.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never got one either, but I've had some friends as well that have got some cool ones. I have a friend who got one. It'll be in one of my listener episodes. She got an well, actually it was a real time, but the way it picked up, I think they got a little more on the recording, but they were in the basement at Bobby Mackey's and they heard
Famous spot.
Yeah, it's supposed to be super haunted. I'd love to go. I
Yeah.
can't believe I haven't been up there yet. I'm not far from it. But
You're not far, no.
yeah, and then so they're in the basement and they have their K2 meter and a recording going, and they're just exploring. You can hear them talking a little bit, and then they said in real time they heard what sounded like a Tommy gun, and then the recording picked up a bunch of popping sounds.
Wow.
So that was really cool.
Yeah. I would say that's legit. You question and go, hey, okay, what could have caused that? And you got to come up with something. Go, it's possible. That's a good piece of evidence then.
I agree, and like I appreciate the fact that they were just being chill. Like they weren't antagonizing. They weren't talking to anybody except each other, and they were just standing in it and experiencing it, and they got something.
See, that's how it happens. When you're not trying and you relax and you go in there, you could get something.
Yes. That is one of my favorite stories, and I love that it reinforces that.
Those are all, I think my favorite thing is our EVPs when you're hearing something, because you say, wow, I'm hearing something from another realm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is that? That is like the coolest thing to me.
Yeah, that is pretty neat. All right, so did you ever work with NESPR, NESPR, after working with the Warrens? Like, specifically, did you ever work with Tony, their son-in-law?
Yes. That's interesting. It's a whole story in and of itself. I worked, Tony, I didn't know Tony. I see him once in a while. We'd go on a few cases together. But years later, after Ed passed, actually maybe at the time, no, it was probably at the time, maybe a year before, Tony and I got to be really close with each other. Tony was like a brother to me.
Okay.
And we were extremely close. And we used to cook together. Tony loves cooking. And we would cook, and Ed when he went into his coma, he would be there, Lorraine be taking care of him. We would cook, and always, every week, do something. And we were going to start, we would sit down and brainstorm, like, what could we do here with NESPR? Like, what could we do with different lectures, and how do we do? So I was involved, and my wife was involved with they used to do the Annabelle lecture years ago. Well, they still do it. And we would have people coming over, and I would help. I'd sit at the dais with Tony, and my wife would do all the arranging, with getting people in and everything. It was a big thing. And then, unfortunately, and I don't want a Tony basher. I'm not going to do that. I refuse. But we had a falling out over something so stupid. When I look back, and I go, how the hell did this happen? Over nothing. Over me doing it because I'm a musician and I had a gig and I double booked. And we were supposed to do a college lecture and he wanted me to go and I love doing it. And this particular gig, I didn't even want to do it. It was for the Brookfield town of education department. And I didn't even want, I could do it every year. And I go, I just don't want to do it. I was so tired. I recently came out of the hospital with something, nothing big, but I was tired. But I'm one of those people, if I make a promise, I do it. That's the work ethic. And I promised them I'd do it. And I did it. And I forgot all about the lecture. And I called Tony. I go, Tony, it's my fault. I take responsibility. I had a double book. I got to do this. I go, believe me, I'm admitting it. It was me. And he really couldn't let go.
Wow.
Is what happened. He kept reminding me, and I got to do it. And then we were cool for a while, and then we had a little Facebook wars, and I would never do that now, but I could get petty too. You know?
Oh, I understand.
And I did it, and I felt bad, and we just stopped talking to each other. We just stopped. And now he's like, he incorporated, and Tony's doing very well now. I mean, God bless him. He's the guy. I mean, he does that Paracon up in the Mohegan Sun, the casino.
Yeah.
And sometimes I sit back and I go, oh my God, that was me. We used to be partners.
Yeah.
I would have been there. But it's okay. It's all cool. I wish him nothing but the best. I am not how do I say? I'm not a big fan anymore.
I understand.
And it's just the way it is. I guess I still have a love for him, I guess, like a brother that wouldn't talk. But I just can't see us ever. Someone tried to get us together once at some kind of a Paracon thing. I did, no, man, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore.
That I understand that happens. Sometimes you have to separate yourself from people because the relationship is too toxic.
Yeah, I can't, and it still bothers me sometimes, but I finally made peace with it. I really did. And I said, I wish him nothing but the best. He's very successful. Do I agree with everything he does? No. And I won't get into it, but it's just, we'll just say I let him go. And I don't even go on his YouTube channel anymore. But he runs the official site of Ed and Lorraine.
Yes.
And I was on there for a while. They put the show Secrets of the Supernatural on there.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see it now. I opened the show with the song, and for a while, maybe 3 years ago, it was on all the stuff I did, and he even had me. I was a guest in the show a few times, and he had that on there. And then one day, it just all disappeared.
Wow.
About 2 years ago, I go, what the heck? Took me off. I was
that
like,
is a little bit petty, but
it hurt me. I'm not gonna lie. It did. But, whatever reason.
That's a dig. That's a dig for sure.
Yeah, I know. I was a little annoyed, and I think I put something on Facebook, which I shouldn't have.
Hey,
and
we
then
all
Johnny
do it.
Zappis called me. He goes, what the heck is going on with you? And I go, John, he helped me a lot, John. He goes, don't get involved in this. And I just took his advice then.
Yeah. So, along with that, a lot of people I've been speaking with are not particularly happy with the way Tony has carried on the Warrens' business and legacy. So that's been a topic of conversation.
Believe me, I'm out here in case there's Tony fans listening now. I'm not trying to go, I hate this, but there are a lot of people, because I'm still basically in that circle from over the years, knowing a lot of people, and a lot of people are a little unhappy with the way he took it.
Yeah. And I'm learning through my research in this, because see, when I started this, I was a little bitter about the Warrens having so much fame over what I didn't believe to be reality. Like, I saw a lot of embellishment that bothered me, and a lot of it just, the money hungry thing really got under my skin. And the more I'm researching, the more I'm learning, and the more people I talk to, the more I'm realizing that the person that is under my skin isn't even the Warrens, it's Tony, and how because of my generation and what I've seen through my generation has been a lot of Tony's influence and direction. So,
well, that's I'm gonna say very astute of you. That's all. We'll just say that. Yeah,
That's
it's.
fair. That's fair.
I get it. Believe me.
But my whole goal with the podcast was to just shine light on the truth. I'm not a person who likes to bash people. I've never been one
No,
to
no,
be
no.
that way, but I definitely am adamant about making sure the truth is there and anyone who has contributed to the lying is called out. So that's what my
Of
main goal
course.
is. Cuz like I want people to go into the world of paranormal with the confidence that what they are learning from people like me or other podcasters or other people in paranormal fields, like have the confidence that that stuff is legitimate and they can trust it.
Yes, and again with Ed and Lorraine, I was watching a ghost. What's that ghost show? Ghost Hunters. Jason Hawes.
I'm not sure, but that
Big
sounds
show.
right.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
one of the. I think it was like right before Ghost Adventures with Zach. It was like. God, I don't even know how long ago. We're talking like 10 years ago, 12 years ago. He gave a little thing about Ed and Lorraine in there. He gave him a little dig and he said, look, anything about Ed and Lorraine, you got to take with a grain of salt. And I was a little annoyed at him and saying, why do you have to say that? But I understand what he meant.
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, he was right, but maybe you shouldn't have just said that.
Yeah. And I
they
think
helped start him.
yeah, exactly. And I think what happens is, because I had a little bit of that too, like when you deliver this message of don't take everything they say so to heart, like when you're saying don't, just take it with a grain of salt. I think
Right.
the personal feelings of feeling like you've been misled and lied to by people who should be leaders in the field, I think that's why that comes off that way, because I understand that feeling like it was a dig versus just a statement.
Yes. Because I will say, look, I love them both. I did. I will back them, but I cannot. I have, like you said, I have to be truthful still, right? And I think a lot of that was embellished. But again, it was there. That was the time when there was nothing going on, and they had to bring it to light.
Yeah.
So you're going to do that. Now looking back, I disagree with a lot of things, but I still can't deny my friendship with them. I gotta stay loyal to them.
Understandable,
For that reason.
yeah. And they were like leaders in this whole mission, so they were still kind of doing like the blind leading the blind. They were just playing it out as they went.
Yeah, I always said they were the Beatles of the paranormal. They came up, no, it wasn't pop. It was bad when it started. People would badmouth them and say, this guy says there's such things as ghosts. Now it's common mainstream. It's mainstream. People could say openly, oh, I believe in ghosts.
Yep.
Actors, celebrities say it. And now in the 60s and 70s, you really kind of shied away from that.
Yeah.
To say anything like that.
It was scary. It was more like if you talked about it, it would bring it about.
Or you're like delusional or something.
Yeah.
Like,
You're just crazy person. Yes, exactly. And a lot of like back in the day, religion was still very prominent in family life, and so if you did anything that like music or anything considered demonic, so you're raised in that time thinking music is bad, this is bad, that's a demon, this is a demon. So when you have this man come on your TV and be like, demons are real and this is how we're dealing with them, then people don't want to hear that.
Right, that's exactly right. And Ed believe me, took a lot of heat in those days.
I'm sure. I've seen a few interviews where he gets pretty heated. How do you feel about that? Him getting like, specifically, I could think of an interview where he was on a talk show. Like, my personal opinions of being on talk shows when you're trying to convey a very serious message is silly, but he was on a talk show.
I agree.
So he was on this talk show, and he is challenged by one of the skeptics that is also sitting there with him, and he flies off the handle. He gets mad, he yells, he interrupts.
I saw it.
How do you feel about him doing, like, in my opinion, I think he's getting defensive because he's trying to get this message across, and people are not taking him seriously that he thinks they should be. So how do you feel about the way he handles interviews and stuff sometimes?
Ed, again, was passionate, believed in this stuff, really this was his life. And so this is where I disagreed with him, what you just said. On a talk show, he would lose it a little. And I know the talk show you're talking about. And actually, at one point in the interview, if this is the one I'm thinking, he says, what do you want to do about it? Almost challenging the guy.
Yes.
And
a little small guy.
thinking, right? And he challenged him. And I'm thinking, you shouldn't have said that. I get it, but you don't do that. You let the other guy lose. You don't lose.
Yeah, that I think that was probably one of the reasons he may have stepped out of the spotlight a little bit towards the end. Also, his health. I know his health kind of deteriorated quickly, but it felt like after a couple of those TV shows, you didn't see him as much. You just saw the rain.
No. I think he was either, like you said, health or smart enough to keep away or something. Because it would be, in those days, again, in all fairness to them, this wasn't mainstream. Now, if you went on a show, people would go, "Oh yeah, tell us here's my experience," and then the talk show would start telling his experience. But in those days, you would never do that. And I remember that they always had to have the skeptic on in those shows to counter it.
Yep.
And I remember that he got really mad at that guy.
Yes, he did. And that case was hard too, because the whole case itself was so hard to believe. So when you have a hard to believe story and then a skeptic attacking you, I definitely feel why he felt like, I understand why he felt cornered and felt the need to react the way he did.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, like I said, I empathize with the Nep of being the first trailblazer, but the guy had guts and took a lot of heat. And I do admire him for that, because like I said, now anybody could come out and say anything. But when he did that, it was unheard of to say that stuff. So he was the right guy at the right time to be the guy to do that. Yeah,
he really did pave the way, and he had the backbone to do it. So for sure.
I couldn't have done it.
No, I don't think
the first time, I'm out of here.
Yeah, like the first little bit of hate directed towards me, my little insides are gonna just curl up and flee.
Yeah, Ed was listen, I'll tell you, Ed was a tough guy, and he projected that, but I could tell you he had a soft, gentle side to him too that not many people saw. My wife and I used to see it, and I used to go, I wish he'd show this side more. He was this really and by the way, a huge animal lover.
Yes.
Like, almost obsessed with them. He loved animals.
Yes, I love that about them. And the more people I talk to, the more I hear about his soft side and that. And I love that they did a lot of donations, especially with amidst their passing, to animal organizations.
Animals, yes. I could just tell you a short little story about how kind he was.
Absolutely.
When he used to, I said, we used to take trips together. So Ed was going through, he had a heart bypass at one point. I don't know, in 96, 7, whatever it was. And my wife was going through something too at the time with something on her brain. She had to get an operation and everything, and something was going on. So we went Ed drove us up to Massachusetts, in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, where they had a shrine. Ed was and Lorraine were very into the religion thing. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I was, but they were. And Ed went over found one of the monks there, and he said, "Father, can you please give us my friend here, Terry, and I, a blessing?" And the guy goes, "Sure." And so he's just about to do the blessing, and Ed stops him, and he said, "Listen, I want to make it that when you give the blessing, I don't get any. 100% of the blessing goes to Frank's wife, Terry.
Aww.
And I don't want to get." And I looked at him like, that is, and Ed believed, and he believed in those blessings. It wasn't an atheist. This is a guy who really believed that he could get healed. Yeah. And he said, "I don't want to get healed. I want her to get healed."
Yeah, that is so sweet.
Wow, that to me, I never forgot that selflessness.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't know that part about Ed.
Yeah, and I see stuff like that. I love that story. That's incredible. And that makes me feel even more like, the more I do this, the more I'm developing a soft spot for Ed. When I started this, I had a very strong opinion of Ed, and I tried very hard in my show to keep my opinions to a minimum, because I don't want to influence anyone else's opinion.
Right.
But I had a very strong, I wouldn't say dislike, but a skeptical view of him as a person. Like, I was very iffy about his whole mission, him as a person. And like, there's, the scandals you hear about and him being this terrible person. And I found a news article where he was violent with somebody and was in trouble with the law over it. And it's like, when I started, I had one opinion and that was it. And now that I've spoken with Eric and I've spoken with you and I've spoken with this woman who got to interview them when she was a teenager for a high school class, she got to interview them. That's really cool. We're doing an interview. I'm excited for that. But she said they were just the warmest people. And like the more I talk to people that really knew them, the more I feel less disdain for his character.
Right. Right. No, I'm glad you said that because, any celebrity or anybody that has any notoriety, there are skeletons in the closet. I've known a bunch of celebrities in my life, and a bunch of them have things, but there's that side that's the beautiful spiritual side. And I find myself as I'm getting older, focus on that with people.
Yes.
Focus on the good.
Yes.
Because, we all have. Well, not all, but I mean, we all do have a little negativity in us, and some have more. And, Ed, you hear things and you go, okay, I'm not going to deny things. And whatever happened, wasn't privy, whatever. I just can tell people how he treated me and my wife and what I saw.
Yeah.
And that's how I have to live my life and talk to Ed when, sometimes I'll take a walk and I talk to him, hey, Ed. I was more close to Ed than Lorraine.
Yeah.
But I could tell you that he had a really good side to him.
That's really good to hear. And I'm appreciating that I'm able to take all this in from different people and change my opinions and my first impressions based on, things that I have initially thought growing up. And it's been quite a ride for me and I really enjoy it. And another lesson I've learned is like you can separate people from what they do and how they are seen by the public, especially with because he is considered a celebrity, and you can look at what he does and not like it. Like I'm not a fan of the way he went about some of his investigations, but now hearing how he was as a person, I feel like I could not agree with him on things but still be his friend.
Right. You just summed it up. That's my feeling. I don't agree with a lot of things he did. And, I could say that across the board. A lot of my friends I know do some weird things and do stupid things. I go, all right, I got to separate myself. I know if they treat me loyal and they're good to me, I got to go with that.
Yes, exactly. I'm sorry, 1 second. My phone is doing something weird. It's making weird noises.
Uh-oh, this could be Ed.
Yeah, right? He's interfering. I would love that. That would be amazing.
All right, wise guys.
Yeah, we've talked about him so much, he decided to join the conversation.
Yes.
All right. I don't think, I don't have any more questions, but is there anything else that you feel like the listeners should hear or know about your experiences and time with the Warrens?
When I hang up, I'll be thinking of a million things then. Oh, remember the time and this and that.
You know what? If you do, write it down and we'll do a follow-up interview and you can bring it up then. I'd be happy to do that.
Maybe we could. The only thing I'd like to say is if I could plug something, and I hate plugging anything, is because if it's Ed, I'm just thinking, remember I said he started me with my music on his place there, on his show. So I told you, this is a weird thing. I got a call about 6 months ago from a producer in England, from a film company. And he said, I saw your song about Ed and Lorraine and I want to use it in my film. And I go, wow, that's a cool thing. And I go, what's the film about? And he said, it's about the Brookfield case. The Arnie Johnson case.
Oh, yes.
So I said, that is weird. And you go, I go, that's strange. I go, that's weird that I was talking about with somebody and now you want to use that. I go, I knew Ed and Lorraine. He goes, oh, I didn't know. And I go, here's the other weird thing. I live in Brookfield where that happened, that thing.
Oh, wow.
That whole,
yeah.
He goes, really? I go, so it all ties together, how that works.
Yeah. That's amazing.
To me, how that synchronicities happen.
You mentioned that before, synchronicities. I'm a big fan and believer in them. I love them.
If you're open to it and you start looking at your life, you will see many synchronicities. You will see it.
Yes, and I love the idea that if you are experiencing many at a time or in a specific time frame, you have a lot of them, that's supposed to signify that you are on the right path.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And so we all should be open and with that, I'm going to be looking for more synchronicities this week.
Yay! And I want to hear about them if you do. if you experience any.
Look, I hope it was interesting. I know I'm not like a current paranormal investigator. I didn't give any scary stories. I'll think of someone I experienced later, but that's okay. I wanted to get the message about Ed that whatever you hear, just know that there was a good part to him too.
Yes, and I'm so glad you did. This interview was so enlightening for me. It gave me a lot of feelings that I wasn't having before, and I really appreciate that.
No, if that's what it was for, then I am very honored to have been part of it.
I'm so honored to have had you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
I appreciate that, and have a good day. And
you too.
I'll be listening to your podcast.
Yes, and I will chat with you soon about when it releases and give you all the information.
Thank you very much. Have a
You're
good
welcome.
day then.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much to Frank for coming on the show and sharing his experiences with us. Frank shared a lot with me, and I'm forever grateful for the experience of interviewing him. But that's not the end. I would love to have Frank, as well as all of my other guests, on for follow-up interviews. So, if you lovely listeners have any questions you'd like to ask Frank, Eric, or Andrea, send them to me and I'll add them to our follow-up. More interviews are coming, and a new Listener Case Files episode will be out next week. I might just have some paranormal evidence to share with you all from some of the next stories. Stay tuned. A couple quick announcements. My next main episode will be out either the end of October or the beginning of November. There is a new documentary coming out on Netflix that pertains to this case, and I would really love to include it in my research. So until then, I'll have some more interviews and a bonus episode or two, and I will also be doing a part 2 to my infield episode. I have new evidence to share with you all that I didn't have before. Thank you, Eric. And I got the Bob Cootie book, A Paranormal Paradox, and I'm almost finished with it and will be adding its info on infield to the part 2 as well. I also have some podcast collaborations in the works with some amazing shows, and I will be on Stoner Buddies podcast for their spooky season coming up, and I'm so excited. Also, I am super excited to be planning something with my good podcaster friend, Lore. She hosts Creepy Chisma. If you haven't already checked out her show, you absolutely must. Her content is so good. Her research is thorough, her commentary is awesome, her personality is so much fun, and her show as a whole is just fantastic. And she did an interview with the podcast It's Giving What If, and I loved it so much. Please go check her out if you haven't already. And soon, we might just join each other for a special episode. And just one more thing before I go. I recently met and spoke with the lovely hosts of Twisted and Uncorked via Instagram and love their podcast. I wanted to share their promo with you. They're so much fun to listen to, and I love their content. So here's a little promo from them. You can find them anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Hello, Twisted Humans.
Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting?
Then this is the podcast for you.
In 1952, there was a record high of UFOs reported. 1,500 sightings.
There has been evidence of human sacrifice, devil worship, and it is haunted by more spirits than can be counted.
A family of 2 adults and 2 kids reportedly saw a giant flying thing with glowing red eyes.
And meanwhile, the family's nanny that helped Veronica to care for her and Lucian's children was found bludgeoned to death in the basement of their family home. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
Until next time.